I always had a big admiration for Tony Robbins and the the energy that he has and so much positive stuff he's done in the world. So when I found out that Dan Brulé was like, was like his breath guru, I wanted to learn as much as I could from Dan. And I also always wanted to connect with Dan and also with, the stuff that Tony's doing. And it's amazing now that the journey for myself coming from that very humble beginning of being a pharmacist and being, stuck in this crazy rut that I was in, the chronic illness, to then fast forward to now. And I actually wrote down a timeline in this event, the UPW, where he does this dreamlining exercise of what you want to create for yourself in the next 5 years, 10 years. And it's incredible the amount of things that manifested. As a music producer, I wanted to be able to create music that has a purpose and intention and a value in the world. And because I was so fed up with the commercial music industry that I was involved with as well, how soulless it had become and how it was just a money-making machine. Same thing with pharmacy, so dissatisfied with healthcare. I wanted to go back to our roots and create a better healthcare system. So this is all manifesting in the most amazing, incredible ways. And so it's such an honor to have Dan on the call today. Someone who's so highly acclaimed, comes from such a great background. And so without further ado, let's begin this great discussion that we're going to have here. And we also have Cara and Eric backstage, who are instructors getting involved in SOMA breath, and then I'm sure they'll have a question for you too. So we're going to get them to ask questions too. All right.
Great. Well,
all right, Dan, let's do this.
What you remind me of is that people who are attracted to breath work, the people who are really drawn to it, there's something universal happening in those people, right? I call it heart-centered. And you also reminded me that I think Eckhart Tolle pointed it out. He said, if you watch a child play, they don't get joy out of what they do. They put joy into what they do. And
right.
It's why you give a child a stick and a piece of dirt and they're in ecstasy. I mean, there's no inherent joy in a stick and dirt. I mean, you've got to be putting something in that. So I think that's one of the lessons of breath work. It's like what we get out of it depends on what we put into it. In fact, what we get out of it is what we put into it. So it's why it's so empowering. And I mean, breathing brings alive so many spiritual cliches that it's ridiculous. Beginning with this idea of connection. In all of the spiritual circles is this idea we're all connected, we're all one. But breathing shows us that this isn't just a pretty spiritual idea. It's a fact and reality. I mean, we are all sucking off the same bubble of air around this planet, literally. And so the breath is the thing that literally connects us. I mean, when I breathe in, this breath that's coming, the air that's coming from around me, it penetrates every cell of my body. So the entire world is coming into me in the most intimate way. I mean, breathing is a much more intimate connection than looking, listening, touching, feeling, fucking. I mean, it's and so this connection, I mean, the breath that's in me now was in somebody else not that long ago. And it was in the dog walking by this morning. And it's going to be in the bird flying over tomorrow. This isn't just pretty spiritual philosophy. I mean, the actual molecules of air some of the molecules of air that are literally circulating in me now circulated in the Buddha, circulated in Jesus, circulated in Caesar, circulated in Mohammed, in Moses, in Krishna, in Shiva. This isn't just, I mean, it's a fact, literal molecules. And so breathing does that a lot. It makes theoretical, intellectual, philosophical, beautiful, spiritual ideas. Breathing is the cellular experience of that. Breathing is a biological experience of God, not just an intellectual experience. And so, I mean, that's why yoga was invented. For example, you got to prepare the vessel. You got to prepare the vehicle. Because if you get a download of infinite energy, short circuits are going to occur. You're going to blow fuses. You're going to, you know, and so pranayama was invented to regulate the mind, because it's like, I don't know if anybody's, worked in rescue and fire rescue, fire department. And one of the standard things was a wild hose demonstration. I mean, you can Google it, a wild hose demonstration. So, you know, you've seen these big fire hoses, and it takes two men holding it and directing this powerful force. So when you're in training, they take you out to the middle of a field. There's a big pipe, and there's this length of 5 meter length or 3 meter length of hose on there. And then they turn the power to it. It's got a big brass nozzle on it, you know, this long. And that thing is just whacking and flying around. It shows you that if this power isn't controlled, you can get hurt. You get whipped and banged by that thing. So breathing, meditation, entering into heart space, generating positive emotions, literally feeling and radiating love and compassion and gratitude and appreciation. This is preparing us to be able to rise up and meet something even higher, right? When we're infused with it. And so breathing is this thing. Now, breathing is something you just want to get rid of headaches. That's a no-brainer. You want to do something with your asthma? That's a no-brainer. Breathing will fix that stuff like nobody's business really quick. But I'm interested in the higher order benefits of breath work. And to each of us, that's something unique. So people are drawn to the breath, and they're drawn to different schools, and they're drawn to different teachers. And sometimes it's just an accident. You just stumble upon something. Somebody puts a flyer in your hand, or you just happen to overhear, or you're scrolling and you find, it seems like it's just this accidental, coincidental, but you got this call, you know. And then a person goes, and if they're fortunate, they'll be introduced to not just breathing air and oxygen and carbon dioxide, which is all cool and good and necessary and important, but people who are looking for something within the breath within the breath, the spirit of the breath, the energy in the breath, the prana, the chi, the ki, the life force, whatever you want to call it, that other dimension of the breath, you know, and using it to wake that up in us. And so I always ask the question, like, what's important? What's really important? What's the most important thing, right? What's the most important thing for me at this point in my life? And then you ask that question while you're breathing in, and then you exhale and you just wait for something to like bubble up in the answer. And so there's so many beautiful ways to use the breath, to connect to our source, to connect to our purpose, connect to our body, which is, you know, really important, and connect to each other, and connect to the earth, and connect to higher forces, ascended masters, you know, divine beings, whatever your mindset, whatever your religious, whatever programming allows you to conjure up, what's the highest, most important thing in that? And then focus on it and breathe. This isn't rocket science. It's like when you bring together consciousness and energy, something is created every time. So if you hold something in consciousness and then you put the breath into it, you have just brought together consciousness and energy. And what you're holding in consciousness is going to get infused into the breath, and the breath is going to awaken and give life to that intention. So it's that little missing ingredient where where, you know, I pray for something, I visualize it, I imagine it, I feel the emotions that come to it, I feel this longing, this great desire. I put my body into it, I put my soul into it, I put my heart into it, I put my mind into it. And the little piece, the big piece, you got to put your breath into it. And that's what unlocks all of the promises, right? So the different styles, I'm always, because I've been, you know, when I started teaching breathwork in 1970, it was like a voice crying out in the desert. They went, breathing, schmeathing, what the heck? Ooh, the eyes would roll over in their head. And at the time, all I had was Rama Sharaka, right? Science of breath. And you know, very limited and mostly esoteric and Eastern and woo-woo kind of sources of this beautiful information. If you could peel away all that other stuff and get down to the nuts and bolts of the breathing, and, you know, what are the fundamental principles that show up in all schools and all styles? It's not a long list, you know, but I think one of the aspects is that, okay, I'm drawn to breathwork. I do a session with you and I have this remarkable experience. It's like an amazing, I'm born again, changed my life, lightning. And I open my eyes and you're standing there and I can't help but think that you got something to do with it. So it's like that little chicken, you know, when a little chick hatches and it's in that bonding period. If there happens to be a cat playing around with the chicken bonds to the cat and follows the cat around forever like it's its mother. It just happened to be there when the chicken was in this open, bondable state, and the cat just happened to be there. And so I see that happen all the time in my sessions for years, forever. That people have this remarkable experience. They connect to the spirit of the breath. They connect to their body. They connect to their heart, whatever's happening. And then they have this remarkable experience and they open their eyes and they want to give me all their money and they want to give me their first child and they want to be my devotee and they want to follow me forever. And I start running for the door because I understand it. I understand that when you're in this remarkable place and it was me who was turn the switch for them or pointed them to it or help them to get there, you know, we can't help but think that, oh my God, thank you. And I go, okay, well, thank you. Well, thank you. No, thank you. No, well, thank you. Okay, let's just be grateful, okay? And it doesn't matter who you're grateful for or what you're grateful for. You don't even have to project gratitude onto anybody. People who deserve gratitude, they don't care if you shower it on them. So the idea is just to generate gratitude, like a flower releases a fragrance. And it doesn't matter, Osho said this, Rajneesh said this, that our love should be like a flower. It just releases a fragrance. And there's just the joy in the releasing of the fragrance. And it doesn't care if a saint smells it or a sinner smells it. It doesn't care who walks down the path. It's a done deal. You just generate this fragrance of gratitude and joy, and that's it. Whatever happens after that, who cares? It's fulfilled. But lots happens after that. And if we can get together and groups of people generate that kind of energy, we can change the world. We can go from flip to flop. I've seen it happen. I've seen killers and rapists and I've seen something just switch in them. And something turned, and I could almost track it to a single breath, or a single moment, or a single aha, or a single download, or a single whatever. But there's a moment. They approach it, they get to it, and then pow, after that, they're a different person. And I've just seen that whole thing turn around. And so if that can turn around on an individual basis, it can turn around on a social basis. It can turn around on the planet. We just have to reach that critical mass, which might just be 1%, as the Maharishi said, right? That if 1% people can meditate, it's going to transform the consciousness of the other 99. And so if 1% of the population on this planet gets to breathing, it's going to create a shift that we have been moving towards forever. Eons we've been praying for, our ancestors prayed for it. And we are in the generation that's going to see that happen. And many people have seen it happen in their own life. seen it happen in their smaller circle, so they know it's happening in the world. And then it's just a matter of all of these independent little pods and nodes that are waking up and bubbling, just a matter of, I like a galactic federation. That's a good way to think about it, with all these cross beams of light creating this amazing network that just transforms everything in the field. And so we can get pretty woo-woo here, and which is where I like to go. But I think the most important thing is that we need to embody spiritual principles, and not just honor them, and not just preach them, and not just believe in them, but embody them. And there is only one way to embody a principle, and that is with the breath. There is no other way to embody. That is the way. The blessing of the Holy Spirit, the descent of the Spirit through the breath, and it is fire. I mean, in the Bible, the symbol for breath is fire. It burns, it purifies. And in the Eastern tradition, we have Shiva, we have the destroyer, we have Kali, so it's hot. And as Babaji used to say, don't get too close, you'll get burned, but don't stand too far away or you won't feel the heat. And with the breath as a tool, we can get closer and closer and closer to the fire until we become the fire, until we merge with the light, until we're part of the solution, until we are, like Rumi says, the drop becomes the ocean. We melt into this amazing ocean of love around us, and this amazing ocean of love within us, and we melt into that. The drop becomes the ocean. And then Rumi reminds us, but the ocean too becomes the drop. And that's the game. And in my experience, well, for me, it began, and as part of the history of breathwork is really, the modern breathwork world is almost a reflection of my personal history, or at least my personal history just seemed to be hooked into the breathwork movement. I mean, I was just sort of, for what is my purpose? I was born for this. I didn't have any real choice. It was never a decision. It was just like a little puppy, you stick its nose in something, and life just kept sticking my nose in the breath. I couldn't escape it for any amount of time. It just kept bringing me back to my breath. And if I didn't bring myself back to my breath, then life gave me an experience that I had no other choice. You don't know what you got till you take it away. And so several near drowning experiences, getting the wind knocked out of me, being strangled and suffocated. It's like life just kept, maybe I'm one of those people that I don't hear the subtle message, knock, knock, knock. I don't hear that. Knock, knock, knock. I ignore it. Bang, bang, bang. Get away. And until finally, I just couldn't, I couldn't resist. I couldn't not get the message. And maybe not everybody needs to be hit over the head with a baseball bat, but it seems to me that that's the kind of guy I was in life. And because I got my introduction to breathwork as a very small child in Catholic school. And, being awed by the pastor of my church, the Monsignor, we had nuns that were dressed in black. They had a big starched halo on their head. The only thing you saw was this. They had black down to here. They had this giant thing with a stainless steel heart with thorns in it, and a giant rosary with a crucifix this big hanging from them. I mean, and I'm a little 4-year-old kid, like, whoa, this is wow. And, your parents are so afraid. My mother was like so afraid of the church, and like, yeah, so, it's like, wow, these are amazing, powerful, God people. And then, so I was, impressed by the nuns. And then one day this Monsignor came to our class, and the nun came and sat with all the other kids. And suddenly it was like she was one of us. And in that moment, something happened to me where I realized she just came and sat in the middle of the kids. It's like suddenly she was one of us. Or really, in my mind, I was like her. So a gap in my own child mind kind of was broken there. And now I projected this new awe because, oh, she's just one of us. I thought she was amazing, but I'm amazing too. Look, we're together. And now we're looking at this huge guy, and he's got red trim on his robe, and he's got gold trim on the Bible, and everybody's bowing to him, and he's like, yeah, the old Monsignor, yeah. And he talked about God breathing into, taking the dust of the earth, breathing into the nostrils of man, and man became a living soul. Something happened to me that day. I don't know the whole story because something snapped or something came together. I don't know which is true. I know I got too animated because my final memories are people's hands on my shoulders trying to make me sit down, and the nun trying to tap me on my head to calm me down. I wasn't upset. I don't know what happened, but I guess I was too animated. But my thoughts were, oh my God, the next breath God is breathing into me? Why isn't everybody blown away by that? Why isn't everybody like so excited? I think about that. We're breathing God. Why am I the only one? It's like, and so, I don't know, something happened. And as a small child, and then your imagination feeds it. And so, you know, I was different. I was weird. And, you know, the classic getting bullied and teased and beat up and stalked and, you know, all that crap. And so my first entry into breathing was in the martial arts. I was just afraid of every guy around me. And I just didn't want to walk around afraid. You know, I was tired of getting the shit beat out of me. And I want to be able to beat the shit out of somebody else for a change. Or at least somehow, you know, stop myself from getting beat up. And that was my first introduction into breathing. And so it was like fear-based, you know. My second, I had a few. The next one that really brought the next principle home to me, I was a student X-ray technician. And in our second year as a student, you began to work, you know, cheap labor. You took call, you were trained enough after a year that you could work on your own. And so we would take call. I love taking call at night in the hospital. I like being the only one there. And an emergency comes, it's just me. I mean, I just love that. And one night they rolled this woman into me, and so they called me to the ER, the emergency room. We got an X-ray for you. So I went to the ER. I'm rolling the woman to the X-ray department. And, you know, I'm just talking to her, trying to calm her down, bedside manner, make her feel good. Yeah, you'll be okay. You know, the doctor will, blah, blah, blah. And so I look at the report and I says, oh, it says you have pain in your belly. She said, yeah, I have pain in my belly. And it says started 2 hours ago. Yeah, like about 2 hours ago, this horrible pain again. Blah. So I said, well, we're going to take an X-ray. We'll take a picture. The doctor look at it. Everything will be cool. So I took the X-ray. And when I was checking the X-ray, she had a tumor the size of a grapefruit in her abdomen. And I thought, this thing didn't pop up 2 minutes ago, 2 hours ago. This thing has been growing in her for, I don't know, weeks, months, years. Why didn't she feel it? Why did it have to grow to the size of a grapefruit before this woman could feel that pain? And I went to bed, after that night, I went to bed very frightened. I thought, can this really happen to me? Can this happen to people, that something can grow in you and you don't feel it till it's the size of a grapefruit? And I swore to myself that night, this will never happen to me. I turned my attention inward to every cell of my body, maybe for the wrong reason, because I was motivated by fear again, but at least the direction was right. And I became inner directed, maybe for the wrong motivation to begin with, but at least, you know, it got me pointed in the right direction. And when I became inner directed, I'm focusing on feelings and sensations in my body. I'm focusing on my breath. And I began to discover the same things that the Buddha discovered, that feelings and sensations come and go. Thoughts come and go. The breath comes and goes. The one who's watching and going inward comes and goes. Everything comes and goes. So that's the Buddha's idea of the impermanent nature of all phenomenon. Even my sense of self comes and goes. And so something was forming in me, a view of life, an orientation. And I didn't get that the breathing was the thing yet, because for me, breathing was always traumatic. I almost drowned 3 times. Somebody suffocated me and strangled me until the bigger kid took him off. And so my relationship to the breath was like this survival thing, you know? And once that fear had snapped in me, then things started to get unleashed. And the fear really broke in me when I was in the military. Second year in the military, I was like the best pool player, probably in the Navy, but at least anybody knew in the Navy, right? So I was a very good pool player, pocket billiards. And stationed over there at Annapolis, at the Naval Station in Annapolis, was the best boxer in the Navy. So he came to me one day and said, "Hey, Brulé, Doc," he said, "why don't I teach you boxing, you teach me to play pool?" I go, "Yeah, okay, that sounds like a good trade." So every day at lunchtime, the guy would just beat the shit out of me. And then around 5 o'clock, we'd play pool together for a couple hours. And after the second day, I'm thinking, this was not a good trade, man. This was not a good trade. And so, you know, after about the third day, he's starting to get really upset with me. And he's like taunting me. He's going, "You're afraid to get hit? Boom. You're afraid to get hit? Boom." And I'm going, "Yeah, I hate to get hit. Who likes to get hit? It freaking hurts." And like, you see this fist coming right at your face. And then when you're looking at that fist, he has another one that comes up underneath you and hurts you somewhere else. And I was like an infant, just, you know, like ridiculous. All I could do was just close my eyes, curl up in a ball, and hope he'd be nice to me. And but at one point, I was able to keep my eyes open, that's a good start. You know, at least keep your eyes open. You can defend yourself a little better. And then this, boom, I watched. It was almost like, you know, time. This thing happens to time when you slip into the zone. And it was like, boom, back. And then the next moment, I realized, wait a minute, that didn't hurt. It was numbing, it was stunning, it was kind of shocking, but it was more numbing than pain. And I don't know, just something clicked in me. I'm going, wait a minute, okay, I was afraid of something, I thought it was pain, but that didn't even hurt. So another thing opened up in me. And so it's that releasing of fear and you know, and also beliefs. Like beliefs are a crust around our intuition. And until we shatter those beliefs, until we shatter that crust of fear, I mean, beliefs are formed because of our fears. So the fear is part of it. And so, but when that fear cracks, we're just like a lobster. We shed the old shell and we got a bigger one, we grow. So each time we remove a layer of fear, we grow. And that's the most beautiful thing about breath work, is that it just peels away layer after layer. It burns away layer after layer of fears until you're left wide open and safe. And you trust in your own vulnerability, and you trust in the safety of the process, and you trust in the perfection of life, and you trust in your own heart, and you trust in your own connection to infinite intelligence, and you trust in your connection to infinite being, and you trust in your connection to infinite creativity. And it's no longer a conscious thing. You're living in trust. And life starts to flow in a remarkable way. And so I don't know what the limits are of breath work. I guess about 5 years, maybe 10 years into rebirthing, which was the first, it was my transition. How can I was having these amazing experiences, for example, near drowning, which, you know, and when I started to breathe again, after the first time I drowned, every breath, it was like amazing. It was like heaven. It was just, oh, thank God for that breath. And so I developed a love, a genuine, you know, it's like I said earlier, you don't know what you got till they take it away. And then you learn to really appreciate it. So those near drowning experiences taught me to appreciate my breath in a way that I never would have, and other people didn't. And so I had a near drowning experience, which awakened me to the ecstatic nature of the breath. And then I had another near drowning experience, and I was resuscitated. I was in the military, and it was a diving accident, scuba. I ran out of air. I thought I would make it. In fact, my last thought was I'm going to make it, which that was a huge lesson for me. I was down at about 120 feet. I had a malfunction, and I fall. You know, your training kicks in. I had a buddy. We were tied together with a rope. I went over to him. I gave him the signal, and he looked at me with the eyes like, "What's he trying to say?" And I'm starting to like panic. Like, I got no air, and we're supposed to buddy breathe right now. We had been trained, and I didn't want to take it out of his mouth because we were trained. You give it, you don't pull it. And and he was and now I've been holding my breath already, going, Jesus, this has already been a long time. Finally, he kind of like reluctantly released it, and I barely got it in my mouth, and he pulled it back. So he was starting to panic, and he was useless to me. So I cut myself loose. I said, okay, I'm on my own. This guy is not helping me. And I headed for the surface. I had already been holding my breath a long time. And I remember, you know, you got to be exhaling when you're going to the surface. You don't want to be holding your breath. You got to be exhaling. And I think I over exhaled. Anyway, you know, the fear and the panic and everything else. And I realized, oh my God, I'm in trouble. I couldn't even see the surface yet. It was still 80 feet to go. I started getting tunnel vision, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm on my way out. And then I saw the bottom of the boat, and I had a thought, I'm going to make it. And I swear to God, if that hadn't been my last thought, I wouldn't have made it. If my last thought would have been the one before it, which is, oh, fuck, I'm fucked, then I would have never made it. But that thought, I'm going to make it. I saw the bottom of the boat, the shadow of the boat. And for some reason, that thought came to me, I'm going to make it. And then just like the lamp, you know, the old cameras with the lens, my vision just went like a camera, and that was it. I blacked out. And then I was in a surreal thing. I was being resuscitated. I came and went a couple of times. And then finally I heard this weird noise. And the weirdness of the noise is what brought me back to my senses. Up until then, I was just weird, psychedelic, surreal. I was dreaming of these giant black lips that were like sucking my face, big, giant black lips. And when I came to in the boat, it was my friend Duck, this beautiful black guy who had been giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So everything was getting magnified. And then when I opened my eyes, his head, the sun was behind his head, and he was looking down at me, and they had been doing CPR on me. They had been doing resuscitation on me. And then I guess I opened my eyes, and I was looking at him, and he had this smile on his face. And because the sun was in the back of his head, he like had a halo around his head, and he looked angelic, and he was so smiling. And I'm thinking, wow, Duck, it was his name, his nickname. You look so happy. And then he goes, so are you going to breathe? And I went, breathe. And then suddenly the thought of breathing, the attempt to breathe, everything shut down. And I went dark again. In trying to breathe, everything went dark on me. And then the next thing that brought was a noise. And it was a weird sound that literally drew me back from oblivion. And the weirdness of the noise and the unusualness. And I'm starting to look around going, where is this noise coming from? And I suddenly realized it was coming from me. And it was in my throat. And it was this, my throat was still very tight, but I was managing to get a little thread of breath in and out. And when I realized, oh my God, I'm breathing, that's the sound of my body breathing, I relaxed. Up until then, I was pretty much contracted, or pretty much, I don't know what I was, but listening to my body make that weird noise, and I said, oh, my body's breathing, part of me relaxed. And as soon as I relaxed, the breath opened up. And when the breath opened up, I was suddenly showered with this ecstatic energy that I could only describe in a way that was like the molecules of air were not molecules of air, they were bubbles of light. It was the best way I can experience it. That those millions of molecules of air were literally bubbles of light. And as I breathed in these bubbles of light, they were bursting everywhere in me and scattering everywhere in me. And I was ecstatic, and I was radiant, and I was floating, and I was connected, and I was at one with the universe. I mean, the classic awakening, enlightened state, right? So that came through drowning. And when I awoke in it, and I was giddy for several days. In fact, they shipped me to Tripler Army Medical Center. They medevaced me a helicopter. We were out on a diving job, and they flew me off because they thought, okay, the guy was without oxygen a little too long. We brought him back, but he's not all there. And because everything made me laugh, everything made me cry. My heart was so open. I was feeling everyone's pain. I was feeling everyone's joy. I couldn't tell the difference between, is it my feeling? Is it their feeling? Is it me? Is it you? Is it what the, blah. I was lost in this Advaita, non-duality, right? And so it took me a few days to recover from this ecstatic experience. And it was like recovering from a trauma, but it was the opposite of a trauma. And yet I learned that our system doesn't know the difference between pain and pleasure. Within a certain zone, it knows this hurts, this feels good. But when it gets outside that zone, all our system knows is it's intense. And it doesn't matter whether it's intense joy or intense pain. Our body-mind system is going to react to that intensity in the same way. What a lesson to learn, you know, that we have to learn how to relax into intensity. And in trying to avoid pain and avoid the intensity of pain, we lock out the ability to experience intense pleasure. And we see that in many experiences, like a Holocaust victim who was in a concentration camp and, you know, tortured and starved and beat, but their spirit wasn't broken and they survived it. And on the other side of that experience, those people enjoy life more than the average person. A simple cup of tea, a simple smile, a simple sunset, they enjoy it in a much bigger way than the average person, because the pain and the suffering crack them open. They now open to more joy and more compassion and more love and more peace. And it works the other way. If you are cracked open by an ecstatic experience, you have this amazing ability to tolerate pain and to deal with suffering and to deal with the intensity on the other end of the spectrum. And at some point, there is no damn difference. Pain, pleasure, that's why the Buddha discovered the middle way, right? My pain is your pleasure. My pleasure is your pain. And you know, who knows? What hurts me, you love. What you love, I hate. And so beyond that, right, wrong, us, them, that's the field that the breath can take us to. And we stumble over it by accident, or we just assign ourselves a practice and a discipline, and we just stick to it no matter what until we get there. But what I discovered, there was another way. Now, I wish that people would have had that drowning experience that I had, because if it would have resulted in what happened to me to them, I think they would volunteer for it. But most people aren't open to that kind of training, right? Another kind of training was going to prison. So I wake up in jail, you know, a drug dealer looking at, you know, forever in prison. And I'm cleaning a urinal. I'm scrubbing the drain of a brass urinal, and I'm at the bottom of my life. This is a true story. I told my wife to let my mother think that I was in Vietnam, because I said, it's better for her to think I'm in Vietnam than for her to know that I'm in jail. And she goes, Dan, you're going to be in jail for 20 years. You can think your mother's going to be. I said, well, cross that bridge when we get to it. She doesn't need to know about my adventures. Just don't tell her I'm in Vietnam, but it's just assumed because, well, you know, I'm there and they're supposed to send me off. And Well, so I woke up again in prison. I'm scrubbing the bottom of a urinal. I had had the worst day of my life. and I was angry. I got screwed over. I was part of a group, and I was the smallest guy in the group, and I was the only one that went to jail. The admiral didn't go to jail. The captain didn't go to jail. Nobody else went to jail, just a little guy. And so I was, life is not fair, and I hate all you people. And, you know, I was an angry young man. And then about 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm in my cell, and they bring in this little 19-year-old kid, black kid, like, I don't know, 17 years old. And he had taken a kilo of heroin from Thailand into Honolulu and got caught with a kilo of heroin. And they put him in a cell behind me. And he was the first person that I let myself love. The guards I wasn't going to love. The system I wasn't going to love. The military, I don't know. And you know, horrible things. I was on bread and water for 3 days because I was a violent prisoner, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, the guy would spit on my bread before he get, you know, weird, just to eat at you and irritate you, right? So they're just ramping up my anger and stuff. And but then this innocent, what I called an innocent guy, he was a criminal like me, but I felt my heart open. And we talked for 2 hours. He told me his whole life story. He got into the Navy. It wasn't what he expected. Anyway, and then they took him away for 2 hours. But then after that, I couldn't close my heart. It just hurt. It just hurt. It physically hurt. When the guards came to me, instead of having my, I just, as soon as I tried to put that on, it hurt me. And so I was stuck. My heart was open. And so one thing led to the other. I end up scrubbing this urinal, the brass drain at the bottom of the urinal, and somehow my senses opened up. I was thinking how miserable I was, and wait till my mother hears where I am, and I hadn't seen my children. I was separated from my wife. I'm stuck in prison. I was demoted. I mean, you know, talk about hitting bottom. And suddenly I started feeling good. It was the weirdest thing. I noticed how beautiful the brass was on the drain in the urinal. And I looked at it and the perfection of it. And I could see myself reflected in this little piece of the little, you know, all the holes in the drain and the brass around it. And it was like I was picking up details. And then I was floating, and that same drowning experience came to me. I started breathing these bubbles of light. I started getting ecstatic. I got a hard on. I mean, you can't contain this energy. It's embarrassing. And the guards come and they think, what has happened to this Lulu weird guy? He's crying in ecstasy. He's laughing in joy. And they had, you know, it was a team, because I was a dangerous prisoner. I had 3 guards with automatic weapons watching me while I cleaned the toilet, seeing if I was going to go crazy again. And my heart opened up, and I just wanted to hug these guys. And I turned around and I stepped towards them, and I wanted to hug them. And the fear in their eyes shocked me. They stepped back and they kind of assumed the firing position. The 2 guys in the front knelt down, and the guy in the back stood up, and I heard the safeties go off on their weapons. I heard the click, 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 and I went, oh my God, these guys are going to shoot me. They think I'm attacking them. I was coming at them with this amazing heart full of love, and they interpreted that as they were literally thought I was attacking them. And it was a great lesson for me. And I thought, oh my God, how many times in my life has love been offered to me and I was afraid of it, or I thought it was something opposite. And I felt so much compassion for these guys. All I could do was just stop. I couldn't give them the love I wanted to. I just started feeling compassion. And now I couldn't see because my eyes are crying, the blurry when your eyes are crying. I make my way back to my cell. They marched me back to my cell. I hated that prison cell. The bars and the cement blocks and the smallness of it. I hated that place. But when I went back, I said, it felt like I'm coming home. After a day of work, I'm coming home. It was like, okay, Dan, you have just taken too much LSD. Good for you that you're able to trip in this weird place, but you got no right to be happy. You got no right to be feeling good. I was experiencing this causeless joy. And it was coming from these bubbles of light that had been hidden in the air all my life. It's there. It's always been there. And some part of us went numb to it, went unconscious of it, turned away from it because of the brightness of it. I don't know how we got cut off, how we broke the knowledge, how we broke that connection. But breathing makes that connection back. And then we get to be a unique expression of something universal. The one universal energy in this planet, the one love, the one energy. And we get to be a unique expression of that one universal energy. What an amazing planet we live on. And part of me thinks that this is a school. And if you can wake up here, you can wake up anywhere in the universe. This is the toughest place in the universe to wake up, is planet Earth right now. And so if you wake up here, the rest of the journey is easy, because we're at this cusp. For every time something good happens, something equally horrible happens, which is good, because when something really terrible happens or someone evil is born, something beautiful happens on the other end. An angel is born. It's how the universe works. If it didn't work that way, this planet would have spun off into oblivion a long time ago. And so we got to decide what side you're on. Are you part of the energy that's uplifting the world and generating joy and light and gratitude? Or are you part of the other part of the world that's generating sadness and anger and fear and confusion and doubt and pain and jealousy and resentment and blah, 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 blah? At some point, you just got to realize it's a choice. And you got to, whenever you can, you got to lean in the right direction. We have ancient programming that's about survival. And that survival makes us default in the opposite direction that we need to go. And it's not until we unhook from these survival programs that we're free to take on a higher program. And that is a chosen program. And maybe it's an ancient one that we just know we were born to connect with. Or maybe it's a completely new one that we invent. Or maybe it's a one that's just, you know, a couple of people have been playing with, and then a couple of people more come together, and we become smarter than me. And then suddenly, like SOMA Breathwork, a new school, a new style, a new mystery school, a new path is invented. And it's not for everybody. People stay away from me by the thousands. I have no doubt about that. People avoid me by the thousands. And so thank God, because they're drawn to other people. And we're here to serve whoever we're here. And we're here to meet whoever we meet. And so breathwork is a universal ancient art, and it's got a new style. It's the ancient techniques that worked 2, 3, 5,000 years ago. We live in a new world. We've grown since then, and we need new methods, new techniques, new exercises. And people who are literally inspired, they create new uplifting things. And what inspires us? Conscious breathing. Breath work. So I'm a missionary for the breath, you might gather. I have no off button, so you better shut me down.
You're on a roll, man. You're on a roll. Respect. I love it. Man after my own heart. Such wonderful message and so many inspiring words there, Dan. So, like, your story is, there's some stuff that I didn't even know about. I mean, I could share the story of, I nearly drowned a couple of times. When I was a kid, I thought I watched Tarzan and I thought I was Tarzan. So I dived straight into the deep end and had to be pulled out. That was the first one. And then I also encountered a lot of bullying as a kid as well. And that definitely makes you grow. It can either make you go one way or the other. Like, either it makes you or it breaks you. Like, it definitely made me into who I am today. I wouldn't have had the resilience that I do if it wasn't for that. So I love all the bullies I had and wish them well. And, so, but the prison story, wow, that's pretty intense, man. Wow, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a horrible night. You know, you're young and stupid, and um, and there's so much money to be made.
Of
And
course.
I was a medical person. Um, the whole thing was just a perfect storm. I was exposed to people who were bringing tons of marijuana into the island of Hawaii. And I was just a little guy in the whole deal. But I was, you know, I mean, I was an E5 in the military. That's a pay grade. And everybody knows how much money everybody makes in the military. I mean, we know our paychecks. I was living in a penthouse in Waikiki, and I was driving,
Nice.
you know, kind of, what do you think? People are going to wonder, you know. So I ended up paying my debt. But after that awakening experience I had in the toilet, I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop crying. And people became afraid of me for a different reason. I was no longer a violent prisoner, but I was more scary than anything else. Because the first guy that came to visit me in my cell was the psychiatrist. They said, okay, something happened to this guy. He's like, he's laughing, he's crying. No matter what we do, you know, he's like, something weird. Call the psychiatrist. So I'm in ecstasy. I get back to my cell, and it was like, I'm home. And I lay in the bed, and I'm looking at the cement blocks, and I'm thinking, look how square they are. And look at how the spaces between each one are so perfect. A master built this prison. And then I looked at the bars and the geometry. You had the flat bars coming down, and you had the round bars going across. And I got up, and I leaning on them, and I go, wow, look at this. They hold me up, and they were cool on my face. And I'm falling in love with these bars. And the jail cell, my prison cell, was giving me an erection. I was having an ecstatic tantric experience with freaking bars in my cell. You got to be insane, right? You got to be crazy. And so the psychiatrist came, and I knew him. I had been in Hawaii for 3 years. I knew all the doctors. I'd been to the hospital every day. I sent patients to him. I knew his whole life story. I sold drugs to his kid. I had an affair with his wife. I mean, I know this guy, right? And he comes to my cell, and he's got his psychiatrist hat on, and he's reading me off these questions. Do you know who the president is? Do you know what day it is? All this, you know, the classic questions that a psychiatrist is supposed to, you know, he's running through the book on me. And every time he asks one of these stupid questions, I'm thinking, this poor guy, I know his problems. I know his pain. He cried on my shoulder 10 times about how he should have been promoted, and he never got promoted, and they promoted other guys around him. And he said, I think, you know, my wife is screwing everybody every time I go off. And I'm going, yeah, I know. And my kid is on drugs. I go, yeah, I know. And so he's crying about his whole life story to me. And now he's in my cell trying to make believe he's a psychiatrist who's got all his shit together. And I could feel his pain, and I could feel he's a lost soul. And so within a couple of minutes, he's on my lap, and I'm holding him in the fetal position, and he's wailing and crying, and he's hyperventilating. The spirit of the breath just came through, and he's in a spontaneous rebirthing experience. I didn't recognize it at the time, but his breath just took off. And he went through this whole cathartic thing. And now the guards are coming around going, what the hell's that guy doing? Torturing the psychiatrist? What's he doing? And so the psychiatrist left, and he's like, his heart's open, he's floating, he's ecstatic. I'm more ecstatic than ever. The bubbles of light between us are like bubbling back and forth, and there's a field between us, and yeah. And then the next morning, the gunny sergeant, the guy in charge of the prison, comes to me. A Marine, been in the Marine for 30 years. He was on a day-to-day contract with the Marines. He could just go, yep, I'm done today, boom, and he could walk out. They wanted him to stay because he had the most experience of everyone in the corrections industry in the military. And so he came to my cell because they reported something weird happened, and don't go near him, because the psychiatrist went near him and, weird shit happened. So he comes to my cell, and within 5 minutes, he's telling me his whole life story. And he's deeply hurt because his whole life he was in corrections. He was in corrections, which is what rehabilitation is supposed to be, what prison is about. And he said, I have never rehabilitated anybody. In 30 years, I've never, and so I've wasted my whole life. And all I could do was cry with him and go, yeah, you did, man. You wasted your whole fucking life. Fess up to it. Now, what are you going to do from here on in? And he just started weeping and wailing. And the same thing happened. He allowed himself to relax, and the breath opened up, and it started to spin, and it spun off all this crap that he had been carrying for 30 years. And so the miracle of the breath, the God in the breath, is trying to break through to us. And we just have to have a perfect storm, I guess. And now maybe we're requiring less and less, because more and more people are waking up to it. More and more people are getting turned on to it. And it's like the Maharishi 1% thing. We get enough people out there breathing, enough breath workers out there, and everything's going to tip. And it's going to tip in the right direction. So thank God that you are doing this work, Niraj. I honor you. I bless you. And everybody who's following you and learning it. And I like to think of breath work as like I'm an artist. And I like a lot of colors on my palette. So, I'm a Wim Hofer. I love Wim Hof. And Wim Hof's method is, man, it's freaking dynamite. It's amazing. I love Judith Kravitz, transformational breath. I love the clarity breath work people. I love holotropic breath work. I've never met a breathing exercise I didn't like. And that's all different colors. And so why should I stick with one school? I'm not loyal to a tradition. I studied with Swami Rama, and that's the kind of guy he was. He was loyal to a tradition. He was born to embody this tradition, Swami Rama, Pranayama, and he was born to pass on this tradition without polluting it, without adding anything, without taking anything away. And that was his mission in life. And I honor those kind of teachers. We need those kind of teachers. I am not that kind of teacher. I am a disruptor. I'm more of a Bruce Lee. I take from here, I take from there, and I break the rules and I put it together in a way that's never put together and maybe create something new. And I think everybody needs to be doing that. So I do practitioner trainings. I've been training breath workers since 1976. We graduated our first group at the University of Massachusetts. We called them breath therapists because I was at the university and it sounded more academic than rebirthing. That sounded a little too woo-woo new age, but breath therapist, that sounds good. And since then I've trained people who want to be certified. You want a certificate? Yeah, I'll be glad to certify you. Jump through my hoops, play my game for a while. And here, you want a certificate? I think God certifies people. And if you're not doing good work, God will put you out of business. So, but I'll play the certification game if that's what you want to do. And I keep reinventing it, and I keep making it up, and I keep putting myself out of business, and I keep starting over again. And I think that's a healthy way to go through life. Just when we think we know everything, we realize, holy shit, I don't know a fucking thing. And it's not just saying that, it's a full body, oh my God, I'm a fraud. I'm useless. I don't know shit. And we got to learn to open and expand and breathe through that stuff too, because we are precious and we are needed and we do make a difference. And how big a difference can we make? How about that?
Yes, I love it. What's the limit of our imagination, right?
Yeah.
Actually, in your story, the real criminals are the ones who made that plant illegal in the first place. They're the real criminals.
Yeah.
How are you?
I got out of jail and I testified at the Senate, Hawaii Senate, on legalization of marijuana. This was in 1976. Nice. I went directly from, here's the magic of the end of the story. I got to leave you with what happened, because I made a pre-trial agreement. They followed me for 6 months, and I had something like 31 counts. Each one of them was like 3 to 5 years. 31 times 3 to 5. And they had photos and marked money and witnesses, and I had no chance, right? So I did what they call a pre-trial agreement. I got a bunch of lawyers, and they made a deal with the government for 3 years. And that was the best that I could get. So I was kind of resigned myself to 3 years of prison. And that was with good behavior. Well, my first couple of days in prison, good behavior was no longer on the table. I mean, they just pushed me until I snapped. I was a very unusual prisoner. And so they really, it was like visiting kids again. I was a little kid in the schoolyard, and the big bullies with the power and the authority just started to really make my life miserable. And at first I tried to be good. At first I tried to blow it off. And then one day it was just too much. The guy spit on my food, slid it through the bars. And instead of taking the food, I took his other arm. And I thought for a moment, let's do a physics experiment. Can a human body fit through these bars? Let's just find out together, shall we? and so I took him by the arm, I pulled him, and our faces bumped between the bars. And now I had his arm, and I folded it in front of me, and I locked it, and I was just squeezing him against those bars. And the panic in his face, and the dislocation of the shoulder. And it was a horrible moment, but I maxed out on my anger in that moment, basically. I took out everything. I still, part of me, I still go, ooh, because I made him the object of everybody who would ever hurt me, frighten me, hurt me. That poor guy, I don't know, karma, I don't know what it was, but he got it. And so I was, for the next 17 days, I was in isolation after that violent episode. And the toilet cleaning day was the first day that they left me out after 17 days of isolation. And they let me clean the toilet, like, to get out of my cell. And that was that boom, that was that switch that hit. And then what happened after that, the psychiatrist came, the gunny sergeant came, and then it was like, I think it was 5 days later, I was finally coming down. I could eat again. I could sleep again. I was out of this ecstatic state. I could feel the earth again around me. I was grounded back in my body. It was manageable, let's say. And the gunny sergeant came and he said, this is really something. I just got a letter from Washington. They're forming a clemency board. It's going to meet like within a week. It's going to meet next week. A clemency board? He said, yep, I'll come. A week later, I'm standing in front of 13 people, the governor of Hawaii, the admiral, the head of the army, the head of the Navy. 2 people came from Washington, D.C. Somebody came from somewhere else, and they formed this clemency board. And I dressed up in my best uniform. I went to this meeting, and very little was said. There was a woman in charge. She said, we've been asked to consider to release you, to give you clemency, a pardon. I went, wow. And nice. I'm thinking to myself, wow, how did this happen? But I didn't want to ask them, because after she said that, the next thing she said was, tell us why you think we should do that. Why should we set you free? And when she said, set me free, I couldn't contain it. I tried my best to contain it, but this ecstatic laughter, freedom, I am free. You know what? I could stay in prison for 20 years and I'll be happy. But I managed not to say that. I don't know, God, thank God, I didn't say what I really felt in that moment. Because what I really felt in that moment was, lady, I am free. I couldn't be more free. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't need to go anywhere. Nothing needs to change. I'm home. But I managed to, like, okay, Dan, this is important. Listen to the lady. Tell her what she needs to hear. So I really thought about it. I said, okay, I got to tell him something. What should I say? And it just came out of me. I didn't think what to say, but it just came out of me. And what came out was, I said, I have two small children. I have two small boys. I don't want them growing up with a drug dealer as a father. And that's all I could think to say. And then I shut up. And then so the lady turned to everybody and said, anybody else have any questions? Nobody said anything. She said, okay, that'll be all. Thank you. I went, that's it?
Nice.
So I went off, and 2 days later, the letter comes back, immediate release. And it was so unheard of that the gunny sergeant in charge of the prison came down to me and said, Dan, Brulé, I'm really sorry. We're going to open your cell. You can come and go, but you got to sleep here because we got to do the paperwork. It has to go to Washington. It's going to take a few days. They have to mail it back. So he said, although we're supposed to let you out right now, just the formalities of it, we can't, we got to do the paperwork. So if you want to go home during the day or you want to go out and play, and as long as you come back at night and sleep in prison, we'll work this out together. And so I said, sure, okay, fine. And I spent that last 5 days waiting for the paperwork, working in the Admiral's garden, eating his mangoes, enjoying this beautiful estate, playing with his children, helping his wife do groceries. I was in Hawaii. It was this amazing $1 million mansion that the Admiral lived in. And I was like the caretaker of this with beautiful gardens and fruit. And oh, it was just ecstatic. The 5 days went by. So I was in prison 69 days instead of 3 years.
Miracle.
And they took away the 3 years when I broke that guy's arm. And they said, you know, your good year behavior, 3 years done, you're off on the original thing, 20 years, buddy. And now we'll see what to go from there. And so then I thought, I got nothing else to lose. I'm just here forever. I got comfortable. And then this miracle happened 69 days later.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Meant to be.
Exactly.
Meant to be. That's how it works, man.
Yep.
Yeah. You get connected to your truth, higher power takes over, man. And it's exactly 11 here. So it's a good time to take some, let's just have an intention here. Just for a moment, just think about everything that Dan's just shared, because it's been an amazing insight. And think back to a moment in your own life to where, and I know that all of you have this moment. I know there's been a time where you've been through a crazy challenge where you maybe something shifted dramatically, your personality changed. Maybe you were always in trouble and then you actually had an awakening experience that actually put you onto a different path. I had in a similar way. I never got arrested for it, but I used to also move a large amount of marijuana at university through our music events. And I thought I was doing a good service because people were getting happier and they were enjoying their lives. Nobody got hurt.
Hey, there was no doubt on my shit. The drunks were violent. The heads were peaceful. There was just no question whatsoever.
Oh, of course. We didn't go out causing riots and fights, and the university probably didn't like the fact that students weren't spending as much money in the bar, you know. But we got through it, and you know, I went through. I met a lot of crazy underground drug dealers, and I got into the hedonistic lifestyle, the club scene. It took its toll, and then I got depressed, and then that depression turned into what we've got today. This, you know, turning it around, flipping it around. So I want everyone to think of that moment, that switcheroo moment in your life where you switched, where you changed. Everyone has it, where a miracle happened. And if it hasn't happened yet, know that it will. And I want you to just bring your awareness right now to everything, the story that Dan just shared, and the fact that right now on this planet, we are going through a grand shift. So many people, as Dan says, is waking up right now, awakening to a truth, you know, to their truth. There is no such thing as absolute truth. There is an objective truth that is based on your own perception. So I want you to all, again, for a moment, as it's 11:11, put that intention. How do you want to perceive the world to be the rest of this year and the year coming? What do you need to change? What do you want to improve in your own life, your own being, And I want you to just imagine as we're breathing together now, just for the next 30 seconds, that you are getting charged up with this bubble of light that comes through every single breath, every molecule that we take in of God, the Spirit. So together we're going to charge ourselves up with this. And I assure you that if you fully believe this with absolute conviction, you will change and manifest and create the reality that you want. That's right. So let's begin to breathe in. Fully in. Hold. And let go with the tone. That's right. Just feel
Hey,
that
two
moment.
things, beautiful things came to me. I'd like to share them.
Yes.
One is what I call this, everyone is familiar with this phantom limb syndrome,
Yes.
where, you know, a war guy gets his legs blown off. And I've been with these guys and their legs hurt. And I've been right there with them saying, your legs can't hurt. You ain't got no legs, right? You ain't got no
Yes.
legs. But they swear their leg, they can feel the details of the pain. Phantom limb. I turned that around one day through a real experience. And that is that we have an illness, we have a problem, we have a limitation, but we've already dropped it. Yet we swear we can feel it. It's a phantom of a former illness, of a former limitation, of a former something. And it's actually gone. You don't have it anymore, but you swear you can feel it. So look for that. Don't be deceived by the phantom of the illness. You just released something and you're free of it, but you may still swear that you got it. So look at that. What limitation do you still feel like you have? And invite the possibility that it's a phantom, that limitation is already gone. It's a phantom.
Yes. Amen. Aho.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you all.
Thank you. So let's just, the people that left, there still seems to be quite a lot of people. Let's put it round to some questions. So Eric or Cara, do you have any questions with Dad? Eric has. Let's unmute.
I don't have a question per se, but I want to thank Dan for inspirational speaking. I've seen him at several breath events and so forth, but I never knew his story. And hearing his story really helps me to understand what he's been through and is going through. And I really, at first I was kind of like, really? There's nothing about breath here. However, it's all about breath. And so I want to thank you, Dan, for sharing your close personal events and timelines with us. Thank you.
That's amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Eric. Great feedback. And you've got a great story too, I know, that we'll talk about. We'll connect soon as well. Thank you, Eric. Cara, you want to say anything? Yeah.
I'm fairly new to breathwork, and it's fun to hear. I've heard your name around, and I've seen a couple of YouTubes and stuff. But it's fun to hear how someone with so much experience, how your life has changed, and just hear your perspectives on everything, just how you perceive life and the reality. So thank you for sharing that. It's really cool to see how breath has impacted your perception, and it's very encouraging to me.
Beautiful.
Thank
You so much, Cara. Great feedback. All right. Somebody did ask earlier, how did you get called the Bruce Lee of breathwork?
Because I felt like a bee flying from one flower to the next. If there was anybody I heard of, I mean, beginning in 1970, when I resuscitated the first person, I was an X-ray technician. I took a CPR class, and within a week, I was resuscitating somebody. And there was nothing to compare to that. Where you come upon somebody who's clinically dead, their pupils are fixed and dilated. Their heart is not beating. They're not breathing. And you blow into them, and they blink, and they wake up. Like, oh my God, what a freaking miracle. And so that realizing that we can do something magical with our breath. And so I was an addict. I was obsessed with resuscitating people. I trained thousands of CPR instructors across the United States. I trained more CPR instructors for the American Red Cross and the American Heart Association than anybody in history, because I'm a fanatic. And so when I discovered rebirthing, it was like, okay, now instead of coming upon people who are dead and breathing into them and having them come alive, I can work with people who are already alive and breathe with them and make them more alive. So it was the same work. It was just a little couple of steps up the ladder. Same work, right? What was the question? I'm sorry.
How did you become the Bruce Lee?
So I realized that if you taught anything about breathing, I need to study with you. If you wrote anything about breathing, I need to read it. And so that became my obsession. And so I was either breathing down your neck or kissing your feet until I got whatever I could get from you. And then I went to the next person. And then I bothered them until they kicked me out, and I went to the next person. And it's never stopped. And then at some point I became one of those people that people were coming to. So, full circle. I think that's cycles of life, right? And they're expanding cycles. And now my students uplift me, and I uplift my students. And then I train somebody, and they do more than I've done. And so they inspire me, and they lift me up. And then I inspire them, and I lift them up. And it's this amazing, ecstatic, expanding spiral of life and goodness. And that's the purpose that's why the spirit of breath is awakened. And so I just took from every teacher and every style, and I just tried to have it all gel in me in whatever way it naturally wanted to gel, and just trusting that. So Bruce Lee invented a new style of martial arts. I invented my style of breathwork.
That's right. Yeah, Bruce Lee was famous for bringing together the best of different modalities, and then he created Jeet Kune Do, right? And so it's a great analogy. I think I like that one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Tony Robbins actually called me that.
Oh, cool. Fantastic. He's a bit of a Bruce Lee himself.
And he's the real deal. The guy is a saint in a suit. I mean, he has changed the lives of millions of people on this planet. He is a saint in a suit. And when he called me, and it's one of those weird things, hello, is this Dan? Yeah, this is Tony Robbins. I go, get the fuck out of here. Who is this, Josh? Is this Charlie? Come on, who is this? No, this is Tony. This is Tony Robbins. I went, well, la-di-da, what can I do for you? He goes, I just heard from my son, Jarek, that you have been practicing and studying breathing for 40 years. Is that true? I go, yeah, I'm obsessed. I'm a fanatic. He says, well, that's what I thought. I got to meet you. I want to pick your brain. And that's what he does. And you know what I love about him? The minute he learns something, he's got to pull somebody in the room and teach it to him. That man cannot bear to go a minute when he receives something without sharing it. That's the kind of people we need to serve in this world. People who, every time they learn something that helps them, they are compelled to share it with everybody who breathes. And breath workers are like that. The good breath workers are like that. They had a remarkable experience, and they just have to share it. It's not like you just have to. And those are the people I'm looking for. And those are the people, God bless you, if you can surround yourself with those people, oh yeah, everybody, the tide lifts all boats. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, that's what we love. That's why we love our instructors, because they've all similarly got into it because of the effect it's had on them, and they're compelled to share it with the world, and that's why they sign up for the training. It's amazing. I love it. So Danielle has a question, which was, have you got any tips on releasing back pain? It's a very common issue.
Yeah, you know, if you're in a sitting position, just imagine yourself as a belly dancer while you breathe, you know, and just breathe down into the sacroiliac, breathe into the tailbone, breathe into the hip bones, breathe into the pubic bone, breathe, and just play and squirm and swirl and stretch and twist and turn while you're breathing in. Loosen those structures, stretch, arch, curl, twist, while you are infusing that area with breath. Just loosen up, soften up. What is it trying to tell you? You know, back is, you depending on yourself too much? Are you carrying too much? Are you holding yourself up for somebody else? Are you upright? So maybe look for any messages. You know, your intuition will guide you. What do you think the message in your back pain is? What do you think your back's trying to tell you? Just imagine you're psychic and make something up. And so you cause the problem, you can cause a solution. And if you don't know how you cause the problem, that means you don't need to know how to solve it. All you got to do, I work with 3 principles: awareness. Bathe that place in consciousness, not judging, not trying to manipulate, not trying to understand, but just pure awareness. Just penetrate that area with consciousness. And the second principle is relaxation. There's something you need to let go of. There's something you need to release. There's something you need to relax and soften and loosen. And what is that? And where is that? So you got to wake up, you got to let go, and then you got to take charge. What kind of energy do you want to fill yourself? What kind of energy do you want to put out into the world? And start using your breath and fill your body with that energy and send that energy out into the world. And in the process of doing that, your back's going to heal itself. And if you need to do something to heal it, you'll get the idea of what it is. You'll meet a person, you'll open a book, you'll find a chiropractor. I mean, whatever it is, it'll show up, it'll appear. And maybe nothing will be required. Maybe it's just a matter of letting go in a way you've never let go before, or looking at it in a way you've never looked at it before. And that's the magic of breath. It's like those magic eye photos. Everybody's seen those magic eye images where it's just miscellaneous geometric figures. But if you focus in front of the picture or behind the picture, you do something, this 3D image pops up, right? You've seen those magic eye, right? And you try and, if you look at it the way you look at everything, you won't unlock that 3D image. You have to deliberately change the way you look. Breathing helps us to change the way we feel. And when you can feel with the breath, it's a new way of feeling. And when you learn how to feel that way, you unlock things in yourself. In the same way that when you do something with your vision, you unlock that 3D image. When you do something with how you feel, the way you feel, using the breath as a feeling organ, you unlock something. Something that's there all the time suddenly appears or suddenly emerges. So
amazing, beautiful.
I don't
Love
know.
it.
That's how we heal.
Great answer. That's a great answer. So just from a to add to that, from a pranayama perspective, actually exactly what you're saying is quite often the pain is there. If it's chronic, it's there to teach us something, to tell us something. It's a lesson. And where does it come from? Often the pain from a biological perspective is chronic tension. There's a tension there. And if you haven't done any of our SOMA breath daily doses or anything like that before, the process of this rhythmic breathing followed by breath retention, you produce a lot of carbon dioxide, you increase the value of that, and nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is a very incredible ingredient that not many people talk about, and it's a powerful vasodilator. And it actually dilates blood vessels and increases blood flow to your muscles and joints. And this alone can actually, if you work on our SOMA breath techniques we have in the 21-day course, can actually help bring that blood flow back to that region where the tensions occurred. And this will give you like a relief of the symptoms, for sure. And that can in itself start to heal the area. However, the true cause needs to be identified, and that's where the cure comes, is where did that emotional trauma come in? Usually something happened at some point in your life. Sometimes it could be something from the past, like when you're a child. It can be a little bit later on where you maybe have been bullied, you may have been under a lot of deep stress, you may have had a setback, some emotional trauma happen. And what happens is this impulse comes in to your nervous system. And actually your nervous system's designed to is always doing what it's supposed to do. Most people's nervous systems does exactly what it's supposed to do, and that is to protect you at all costs, to keep it survive. And emotional stress has the same biological effect on your body as physical stress. So you kick in the same level of adrenaline, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and you go into freeze mode or fight mode, but it still creates a lot of tension. And also unresolved emotions from this incident that may have happened, what it does is it gets stored somewhere. So when that first trauma comes in, you get this big surge of like electrical energy from your nervous system, and it would actually normally kill you unless the protective part of your brain takes that information, that memory, and stores it somewhere. And it stores in your muscle memory in order to remind you of not to get into that situation again, because it could kill you, right? So then over time, unresolved emotion like this, which is irrational usually, layers of other issues in your life can layer and layer and layer, build up on top of it, and it becomes a chronic problem, and that tension leads to chronic pain and all these issues. So letting go is the secret. Letting go, learning how to let go. And the breathwork techniques and doing it in a therapeutic way with a facilitator can actually help you resolve these deep-seated issues and also get the blood flow going with the right techniques to that area where you can rebuild. So that's just a biological perspective, and I think goes well with what Dan was saying as well. Okay, so great. Let's see if there's any other questions. Well, let's just take a couple more. Because the problem is I can't see all of the comments. I can only see the top few. So if anyone has a question, let's take one more. Ask it right now. Whoever's the first to ask a question gets it answered. Okay. Let's just see what happens. I think somebody's frantically
that
typing.
Relaxation, while you're waiting for that relaxation is so important. You know, when I make a fist, I'm blocking the circulation of my hand, and then when I open it, my skin is white, but then the color comes back. So we know what physical tension does to circulation. Emotional tension, psychological tension blocks circulation in the same way that physical tension blocks the circulation of blood. Emotional and psychological tension blocks the circulation of prana, of chi, of subtle energy. So we have to learn how to relax. And no matter how relaxed we are, you can always relax more. And that's got to be, we got to be leaning into that ability, because everyone has a place beyond which they cannot relax. You can relax and relax and relax, and then if you relax too much, you fall asleep. Think about that. Why would sleep be a reaction to relaxation? This always bothered me. It's like we relax, and then we're sleeping. So we get so relaxed that we go unconscious. And then we're not even awake to feel what it feels like to be totally relaxed, because we went unconscious. So most people have literally been asleep through the most relaxed moments of their life. And the first time you're wide awake and relaxed, it's like a religious experience. It's a very simple thing, very natural thing. Be completely relaxed and be wide awake. But usually one displaces the other. The more awake I am, the less relaxed I am. The more energized, I lose my relaxation. And if I relax and relax and relax, I'm not breathing. And then pretty soon I'm not even conscious. So it's bringing those things together, bringing together awareness and relaxation, bringing together awareness and breathing, and bringing together breathing and relaxation. You know, it's the putting together of these things where things click. So anyway, Did you find a question?
Yes, bunch of questions here. Thanks, Dan. Let's try and do 1 line or 2 line answers for each one of these, because there's a few that have just come through. So I'm going to leave one of them to the end because it relates to your event that's happening. So first question is, who got you out of jail? Did anyone particularly? God, the great. I thought that was it.
To this day, somebody liked me. Somebody in Washington, maybe the gunny sergeant, somebody up there, for whatever reason, just decided, you know, Dan's a good guy. Let's let him out. I don't know. I don't know.
Brilliant question. So another person asked about cannabis and breathwork. Do they go together, or can they be harmful? I have an answer to this, but let's see your perspective first.
I'm a purist. If you get a benefit, you don't want to be doing 10 things and then you got to figure out which one of those 10 things did the work. So I'm a purist when it comes to breath work and breathing. Ayahuasca and breath work, wow, that's like, everywhere I go, ayahuasca and breath work are coming together. Maybe it's a natural thing. I can't criticize anybody because I brought it together in my own life. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't preach it. I'm not against it. And so, yeah, if it's good for you, it's good for you.
So we actually have a endocannabinoid system. We produce our own cannabinoids. And the breath has been shown scientifically when you do certain rhythmic breathing to amplify this and tap into this endocannabinoid system. I talk a lot with Wim.
Yeah.
Wim's always raving about how we can make our own cannabis and
Hey,
stuff.
so many people get up from a breathing session and they go, wow, I've taken a lot of drugs to feel like this. Exactly.
Yes,
It's ayahuasca without the drug.
Yeah.
It's LSD without the LSD. The breath has that power. It unlocks our body can manufacture whatever it needs. We just have to help it, let it.
And actually, cannabis is one of the few plants where we actually have endogenous receptors for an external substance found in plant. Yeah, same with like DMT. So we were born to work with this plant, with the hemp plant. Even the American Constitution says it. It was written on hemp paper. I am actually a big, major hemp advocate because I believe we can save the planet with the medicines we can make and also the materials we can create through hemp and the food. We could have abundance for everyone if we went back to our roots. Now, what was very important about cannabis is that it heightens the senses. Like it works on the limbic system and it amplifies how you feel from an unconscious level. So if you're a very neurotic person, if you're full of paranoia and fear, it's going to amplify that to the max and you're going to get extremely paranoid, you're going to get fearful, you're going to have a panic attack and all of that stuff. If you're somebody who's extremely happy and full of joy, quite often it can amplify that. and make you feel even more joyful and happy and laugh your head off and things like that. And the same thing with breath. When you do a breathwork journey, and actually the original SOMA, one of the theories of it is it was cannabis mixed with some other ingredients. It will amplify your experience, okay? But you've got to remember that if you are somebody who's not used to this stuff, it could take you out, control out of your mind, and you might have a bad experience, and it might affect your experience of breathwork in a negative way, and you might think it's the breathwork that did that when it was actually the fact you were really high. So, you've got to use in the right context, use it. I'm not against it. I also don't recommend ayahuasca to anyone. It's something that should call you to it. It should never be pushed on anyone. It should call you to it. And but in my experience, it makes things better. It makes food taste better. It makes breathwork a better experience. It makes meditation deeper. Actually, I stayed with a Baba in India for a week, and they would hit massive chillums, and they would get super baked. You have one little hit of that, and you are in God's land. But these guys could take massive doses of this stuff, and and he used to say to me, "This is medicine for meditation," and that was why the Babas do it. They would get the charis and they'd roll it, and they would love it. And it will be a big part of their spiritual practice. But we don't all live like Babas under banyan trees, and we have a lot more stresses in our environment compared to they do. And so I see it's been used out of context. A lot of people use it as an escape and they sit at home playing computer games. It puts you into a trance state and you get hypnotized, brainwashed easily by any sensory input because your senses are heightened. So being stoned, eating pizzas all day, playing computer games isn't a good use of cannabis, but using a spiritual context like breathwork or meditation is a much more beneficial use of it. It's not recreational then, it has an intention. All right, so someone was asking about epilepsy. It's hard for me to advise anything on epilepsy. It's a very complicated issue. I don't know if you have any do you know how to fix epilepsy with breathwork? I would say that was a hard.
I've worked with a lot of people with epilepsy. A lot. 40, maybe 40 people in 40 years. No, not a lot. And a couple of people have had epileptic seizures during a session. Two of them had it in the end of the session during the integration. Another one had it maybe even during what I would call the peak of the session. But it wasn't, they would do for, they knew how often they had episodes, and for them it wasn't unusual. It just happened to happen while they were breathing, and that's how they thought it. I don't understand it, but I'm a big believer in a lot of the principles in the Course in Miracles, that there's no degree of difficulty to a miracle. And part of me says, yeah, we have a specific problem, we need a specific solution. But a bigger part of me says, you know what, there's a universal solution to all the specific problems. So I wouldn't separate epilepsy, arthritis, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer. Those are all the same. They got a different name, they got a different symptom, blah, 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 whatever. But for me, it's suffering. Okay, it's suffering. And it doesn't matter the form. It's like fear. I'm afraid of this, you're afraid of that, he's afraid of this, she's afraid of that. Fear is fear is fear. It doesn't matter whether it's fear of heights or fear of darkness or fear of closed spaces or a fear of success or fear of dying or fear of fear. Fear is fear is fear. And I think we make a mistake when we make it too specific, because we're losing touch with an expansive universal solution. So we drill down on the basics, get better at meditation, get better at relaxation, get better at breathing, and see if things don't fix themselves. And they do. I've seen people have their last epileptic seizure. I've seen people, have their last asthma attack. I've seen people reverse cancer. So I don't have the luxury of doubt. I know we can do this, but how each person did it is totally unique to them. and and all we can do is support it by creating a field where it's more likely to happen, or we're at least not in the way of it, right? So all I can do is believe that you can heal yourself, and I'm going to generate as much love and peace and joy as I can. I'm going to connect to whatever's deepest in me. I'm going to bring in whatever I can invite to help, and that's all we can do. I have a good friend who's into all things Chinese, and he's in Russia actually, and we had a great discussion about this, and we finally talked around and we came down to three principles. You tell people stories, you give them things to practice, and you leave the rest up to God. And
yes,
who am I to know? Who am I to say I should relieve you of that epilepsy? Maybe that is exactly what you are meant to have. And who am I to think I should take that away from you? I don't know. So we just hope for the best. We bring our best we can to it, and we just trust in the perfection of life. And sometimes that means healing something magically or amazingly. And other times it just means I'm more comfortable with it now. I can live with it more easily. I can still be loving. I can still enjoy my children. I can still have a high quality life. And I don't have to heal this thing. It's okay. And so on, and anything in between is okay. So
beautiful, amazing. So I think that's a great way to round up this discussion and leave with a final question that somebody asked, who happens to be in Mexico right now. Are you doing an event next year?
Yeah, February. We do a private retreat. It's my private retreat. This is I bought this land. I came to Mexico because I travel 9-10 countries a year. I'm traveling 9-10 months a year. And I needed a place I could come and reboot, connect to nature, breathe, be in my hammock, climb in the mountains, be in the hot springs, swim in the ocean, just reboot. And so that's become an annual thing. It's a very private retreat. We take usually 15 people, 21 days. That's happening from the 1st to the 21st. It's my favorite event because it's my own personal retreat, and we just invite other people to take it. It's an immersion training. It's an immersion intensive. And so that's my favorite thing, 1st to the 21st of February. And then that's grown into a festival, which this year is virtual. Last year it was in Los Cabos, called the Cabo Breath Fest. We had a couple of hundred people, about 30 presenters. It was beautiful, great thing. And this year, because of, well, everybody knows the COVID thing, we've gone virtual. And Niraj is one of our presenters, and we've got every big name in breathwork who's presenting. And people there's people I've been wanting to meet, and finally we're meeting through this festival. And that's online, it's virtual. thebreathingfestival.com, thebreathingfestival.com. The real website is launching October 5th, October 6th, the latest. We do have a website up right now, just something to say we have a website, but the real website is coming October 5th. There's a Facebook page also, The Breathing Festival. And so come on in. Let's have some fun online for 21 days. It runs across 3-4 day weekends from the 8th from the 11th to the 28th of February. And the personal private retreat is from the 1st to the 21st. So February is the big breathing month in Los Cabos, be there or be square. And this year it's virtual. So those are my two favorite things happening. And breathmastery.com, same story about my website. We have something up, something else is coming, but there's a lot there for you on breathmastery.com. I've written an article. Here's something cool. I have written an article, a report on breathing every month since June of 1976. So I have an archives on my website that is literally a monthly article, a report every month since 1976. So
since 1976,
there's a plethora. Yeah. I haven't missed a single month. In fact, October is here, And I'm working on my October newsletter, my October article right now. So breathmastery.com, and if you dig around and ask around, you can, it's like going into the basement of a museum. You're going to find archaeological finds, 30 years ago, what we were talking about. And you know what? I listened to something I did at the University of Massachusetts in 1980. And I listened to that recently. 1980, I did this thing at UMass, and I realized, I'm saying the same damn thing I was saying 30 years ago. It's like I haven't grown. It's like I got the same story I've been singing, same song I've been singing. Yeah, different key, different harmonies, different riffs, but there's a universal message here. And everybody's got it, and everybody's presenting it in their own way. And sometimes you hear something, 10 people tell you, but then sometimes the 11th person says the same exact thing you've heard 10 times, but you finally get it. So just stay with it. Just keep going. I mean, there is no limit to what's possible for humans. So let's just keep looking up and moving forward.
Love it. That's a brilliant place to finish this call,
Thank you.
which has been amazing. Ending with a mic drop from Dan Brulé. Hell yeah.
Okay.